Okay, so I'm probably streaming. I think I am. This is probably, hopefully, going to be a more successful stream tonight, this evening, because I've managed to have everything on my screen rather than having to rely on this damn external monitor, this video camera monitor to see if chat's working or not. And um, as I might have mentioned in my in an earlier stream, I've gone and bought some, or not bought. I've acquired, let's say, some far right books. So I've just learned about this publishing house who which makes books for the neo-Nazi far right, and I guess part of what the far right are trying to do is, well, one of their the far right's objectives is to create a sort of a patina of obviously legitimacy. That's kind of it, but academic legitimacy, because obviously if any of their any of what they say, if anything of what the far right says enters academia, it gets busted really quickly. It's actual real fact checking. It really doesn't stand up. It really doesn't stand academic rigor. So, but what has been happening with I guess you'd call it the internationalization of the far right in the last few years, where people around the world, particularly I guess the English speaking world and else and beyond, is that they're creating a kind of an ecosystem, so a self-contained ecosystem, and one of the big, I guess, nodes within this ecosystem is this company called Arctos Press or Arctos Media, and Arctos Media was founded by a man called Daniel Freiberg. He's a Swedish person who had a whose background was as an actual skinhead 1488 neo-Nazi boot boy, and he got some funding behind him, and by some, I think, some kind of steel magnate in Sweden, to set up this publishing company, which has published like hundreds of books, and has I think he's partnered with Richard Spencer and all these American names. They've translated many of the European far right texts into English. You go onto their website and it's quite dizzying, the amount of text they have. It's not actually that popular. Like, they've got a YouTube channel with only, I think I've got more or less the same amount of subscribers as their YouTube channel, but they get read by the quote unquote right people, who I guess are the Nazis who have intellectual pretensions. And so, how can you? I mean, when you say intellectual pretensions, it is funny, because their books is basically really verbose ways of saying the same thing over and over again. That the culture is under attack, war is imminent, and so yeah, and so I thought, okay, well, I'd be interested to read this stuff. Apparently, they're more sort of genteel, sort of optics as well. So, if they have that patina of academic, of that look of academic, of a sort of an academic wing to the far right, then it gets obviously I don't know, like they can foster a kind of that genteel Nazi wing, and the more and they, yeah, so Arctos, and so they've translated Alexander Dugin from Russia, and this guy who I've started to read called his name's called, I know I have I have French people watching, so I daren't butcher the guy's name, but I think it's Guillaume Foy, and so I bought some books. Or I got some books which I've just had a bit of a glaze over today, and I'm just going to show you. I'm just going before I start playing the video game. We're just going to quickly go through these books. They have the most amazing covers. You're going to love the covers. So and I guess they're in order of least objectionable to most objectionable, perhaps. Yeah, let's do that. So the first one is called Retro Culture, and it's by a gentleman, this guy William S. Lind. I looked him up on Wikipedia, and he seems like a very nice chap. He advocates for grenade police to have grenade launchers as standard issue, and he also wants hanging. So he sounds like a real pleasant sort of a character. But this book is I found he identifies as a quote unquote paleo conservative, which means pretty much fashy really. But from what I've read of the brief part of the book that I've read, it's sort of the framework isn't invalid. Like it's you could apply a progressive framework to what he's apply progressive values to what he's saying in this book. Like he's talking about looking backwards and taking the best elements of the past to look to the future, and that's actually that's quite a universal sort of a concept, really. I mean, some of the people in my community are involved with things like predator eradication to try and bring the native bird life back. Now that's conservation. That's kind of retro culture within conservation. So it's obviously the problem here is that he's filling this framework up with all sorts of crazy European religious nonsense. Well, I wouldn't say European. He's American, but yeah. But next one, okay, it gets even better, right? I bought this one just because I like the look of the cover, because it's like it's a handbook for traditional living. This looks like something which I haven't even looked into it, so I'm going to have to report back to you what's inside it, and I hope it's about how to live like a friggin' like peasant in Rome, judged on the cover, judged by the cover, how to plant grain and shit. I don't know. It obviously appeals to the sort of these sort of assholes who would be who love this kind of imagery, and naturally I bought it because I'm probably one of these assholes, but not really. Now wait for it. So this is this French guy, and this book is called Sex and Deviance. They have really great cover design, don't they? These books, they're like they're these sorts of I don't know, they're these I read in the article I read about the publishing company was saying that they have art directors. They've got a staff of 15, including art directors and whatnot. And I'm thinking, wow, they must not be paying these art directors very much money if this is the kind of cover design they're coming up with. But this book is it strikes me as a sort of it's a bit incelly. And it's a very verbose way of talking about the kind of themes which you might be acquainted with if you've spent any time online, and this might be the source text maybe for a lot of what these plonkers talk about when they talk about the sexual marketplace and all this kind of stuff. He's talking about how sex has become this thing which has just infused everything in our society, which I don't disagree with, but I think that's always been the case. I would say, but he's obviously linked it with you guessed it, the cultural Marxist Jewish conspiracy. The usual story. It's just a rote kind of. I've been looking at the chapter headings, and it's just sort of it's just sort of the rote kind of obsessions of the far right, so queerness and queer acceptance and uh, interestingly, he's got something about kink, which I'm going to be quite interested to read about, because I would actually have thought that people in the Nazi and that the far right, they'd probably be quite into kink. One would think. I don't know. I call it a hunch. Maybe I'm sure they like to be beaten or something. I don't know. That'd be an interesting thing to explore. What they think. If they're into that sort of. You go to any kink scene in the world, there will be someone who dresses up as a Nazi. um, and and I've saved the best till last. This is this book. I had to buy the book for the cover. Basically, this cover will blow your mind. This cover is just. Wait till you see this. Sorry, this is just. Boom. The Coming European Civil War. And it's got a foreword by Jared Taylor, our favourite American professional racist. And I've read the foreword, his foreword, as well as the publisher's notes, and I've sort of grazed through the contents of it, and it doesn't seem to be a very searing, not searing, rigorous book, let's say. I was expecting something a bit more I was expecting something a bit more meaty, but it doesn't seem to have very much of a structure. It could be like he's almost like, it almost seems like a compilation of blog posts in a way. Like it just he's written down a bunch of ideas and just like turning them to subheadings and run wild with it. And he's basically just saying Muslims. He hates Muslims. That's essentially it. Muslims are invading Europe. This is very much the Great Replacement. This is very. I feel a bit, out of all of the books which I've shown you, these ones about sex and deviance. Okay, so it's against. It's hate material against LGBTQ identities, if anything. But the retro culture and a handbook for traditional living. They're harmless conservative nonsense. But this book here is the one most I'm going to have to basically wipe the moment I finish reading, because this is the sort of thing which probably gets me in trouble in the country that I live in for being in possession of it. It's a kind of a theory. It creates a theoretical framework for mass murder, and I mean, just look at the cover. And in fact, the original title in French was more provocative than that title. They called it like that. It was actually like it was called like the race war or something. But and the publisher makes a note of this, and says that they've changed it in English, of the English translation, because of censorship in the English speaking world. But I think it's a bit more than that, and it's half of that, but also half optics, because they I mean the covers enough, but if they actually were a bit more. If they went a bit one degree further in that title, then it would get banned from Amazon and all of the you could buy this stuff on all the big book retailers online. So it would probably, if you called it, the incoming race war, it would probably it wouldn't be sold there, but definitely in the country that I'm in, they take a really hard stance on these kinds of materials. So I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't been prescribed, then if I bought this up, they'd probably tell me, please don't. you shouldn't be. You could be in trouble. I say this as well because there was a soldier, a New Zealand Defence Force soldier who's been arrested today in the news, and he's been arrested because it has for espionage. The actual so this is actually a really big crime for a New Zealand soldier to be arrested for, and what it is in fact I have it on my phone. He was arrested for. I read the report. It's actually really I mean, for this country, it's quite hardcore. So, a soldier who led a white nationalist group has been charged with espionage, and is the first person to face such an accusation of threatening New Zealand's security by giving information to another country or foreign organisation. He's got 17 charges against him, including multiple counts of espionage, attempted espionage, accessing a computer system for dishonest purposes, and possessing an objectionable publication. So you can read between the lines there. When it says possessing an objectionable publication, I suspect that he was found with the terror that manifesto that on his hard drive, which is prescribed in this country, and that you can actually get charged for that. And in the context of a soldier who's a white nationalist, they're going to throw the book at you. And if that person has been in contact with people in other countries, that's this international far right, as then you're not going to look good. You're going to look like you're organising, and he faces 14 years in prison. And they're just basically, I dare say they're making an example of him because since the terrorism, that there is this kind of, I think there's this, I think everyone in law enforcement in this country needs to grab a far right scalp, it's you've got to make an example of these people, I guess. And yeah, but it's just fascinating. This guy, he's a soldier, and now he's going to be 14 years in prison. Yeah, so yeah, he could probably be happy. They'll probably put him in the cell next to Brendan Tarrant. Jesus Christ, they'll probably have like a little Nazi wing of Auckland prison. So yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny you say that. The book reminding you of the Turner Diaries. That's what I thought too. It's got the same kind of cover, doesn't it? That sort of guy with a gun, same sort of pose, the same sort of. I guess that's what they were going for. And he's this author. He seems to be he quite favoured. I think this Jared Taylor. I've seen speeches where he quotes this guy, so he gets boosted from in the America by the American bigwigs, American leading lights, and he's dead now. The author, I think he died like a few years back. Yeah, right. This guy. He got on crowdfunded bail $2 million for a literal white supremacist murderer. Wow. This guy who's like is he the guy who was in that guy who turned up to a Black Lives Matter protest and shot people in the face or something? Was that the guy? Yeah, like it's thankfully in this country we don't have such civil unrest yet. I mean, there's still plenty of time for that, but we don't have, because assault weapons are now banned here. Being in possession of one is also, they've banned the Nazi literature and they've banned the assault rifles. So they've kind of sort of cut the corner off that end of the that part of a potential far right insurgency. So yeah, that's my reading material. I should report back on one of those. Maybe I should do like a survey. Which one should I read first? But just to go back for people who've just come onto the stream, I've got these books. This one is the Handbook for Traditional Living, which looks pretty fucking ace, doesn't it? Just look at this cover, man. And in fact, I should actually just have a quick look and see what they're actually what topics are covered in this. Like if it's if it's like, here we go, theory and practice. This is good. I like actionable actionable information. Here we go. metaphysics. Oh, it's just wank shit. This isn't gonna tell me how to, beat my wife or whatever the fuck these people are into. The new man. That's what I'm into. Yeah, it's just the other thing about these books, because they're sort of sort of faux intellectual sort of nonsense. They don't have very good editing. There's no the prose is actually quite. I wouldn't be surprised if half the audience who read it don't really understand it themselves. It's just the text. There's no it's not very succinct. Let's say, like me, the way I talk, that's how this text comes across. And so the other book was just to recap, is Retro Culture. This seems to be the most benign of the lot. It's just seems to be a conservative tract. Although I'm sure as I progress into it, he's going to say lots of purple prose. That's the word. Thank you, Kaiserin. There's a lot of purple prose seems to be a lot of just padding, a lot of bread with no meat in the middle. But that's the whole point of I guess, with the far right, is that they have very little that they have to say in the end. They just have to try and create this appearance of having a big ideas, and then Sex and Deviance, which it looks like this looks like it could be a porno book. Like, it looks like this looks like it could be fan fiction. Or just like erotica for people who want to fuck robots, So that's that one, and of course the final book, which is Ethnic Apocalypse. So yeah, let me know which one you think is worth my time. Yeah. So so that's how I'm gonna be. You can see I'm a lot less stressed now because I've started. What's the word for it? I finished my working for the ICA, the job that I was supposed to be recent missions turn out to be contracts. So I feel a bit more what's the word for it? Relaxed about work.
Client, things take an unexpected turn.
No, this sucks. I'll go for Ethnic Apocalypse, just because it looks the most hard out, doesn't it? It looks like the most hardcore.
Providence has infiltrated the highest echelons of power.
It looks like proper violent pornography, doesn't it? Like, for people who really want there to be a race war. People who really want there to be like an end of civilization as we know it. It's like just the... and again, I have. It's probably best if I read it before. It's best I read it before. It does. This is a text that gets implicated in some kind of fucked up atrocity, and then subsequently becomes illegal in the place I reside. So yeah.
World. The shadow client wages a
there you go. That marks. That's kind of what I expected. The craziest thing, or the most.
Down and eliminate the shadow client.
I think that this whole cultural Marxism thing has become pretty much conservative orthodoxy now, hasn't it?
Neither know that the man they hunt is 47's child.
Yeah, Net 7. It would be much more cooler if it was a zombie apocalypse. 47. But I mean, that's probably what they in their fantasies. That's what they imagine. They imagine themselves mowing down Muslims and stuff like it's just like it's like that I don't know, that show, The Walking Dead. So that's in their fantasies. They seem to like have these kind of delusions and there'll be this complete civilizational breakdown, and they'll be the ones with their sawn-off shotguns. Like on the cover with their Aryan brides, who's probably been allocated to them by the state. Yeah. So I guess
at the location.
I think.
No hostile presence.
Understood. Almirain's house is just up.
And also, this guy goes on about and the bit that I read, he was going on about the Kalergi plan, which is this conspiracy, essentially, because he says, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but, and then he goes on to talk about the Kalergi plan, and he does make a point of sorts, because this Kalergi chap did you know, he has a he was one of these people who dreamt up the European Union, in a sense, and people still like people like Emmanuel Macron cite him, and you know, a lot of pan-European pro-EU types. They still talk about Kalergi, like, you know, but the far right takes it further, and they talk about him as being this kind of, talking about it as not just being a Europe coming together, but this kind of multicultural plot to make everyone, you know, part of the mud race. And so the Europe, like things like the EU and all this international, all this sort of multilateral approaches to, you know, these are actually sinister plots by you know, them to enslave us and all of that malarkey. And so that's probably what will be behind the like, you can actually already map out, having found out this guy's preoccupations, you can already map out what he's going to say in the book. Like, I don't even need to read the book, and I'll go through the book. It's almost like you can go through the book with a checklist, going, okay, he's going to talk about cultural Marxism, he's going to talk about the media, he's got all the sort of like all that sort of probably a bit of soft anti-Semitism, if not hard anti-Semitism. He's probably going to talk about definitely talk a lot about Muslims, liberals, something critical theory is a better academic category. Yeah, that is true. But cultural Marxism is, like I think it's been said many times, is that cultural Marxism, like there's the kind of the who's that Jordan Peterson, when he talks about cultural Marxism, he's talking about critical theory. But what he's doing is he's creating a synchronicity with people like David Duke. That's the argument. Is the only difference between what he's talking about and what David Duke talks about is David Duke says, and it's the Jews. So what you're doing is, you know, there's if you're someone who can be made to believe cultural Marxism is a thing, then you can also be made to it's not a very far leap at all to start listening to the Daily Shower and obsessing about George Soros and all of that stuff. Yeah, urban areas. Yeah, we know what that means. Enthusiastic nihilist. What he means is he wants harsher. You know, the punishments for black people aren't harsh enough for existing. You know, I don't know what I'm doing here, by the way. I'm just walking around. I guess I can. Yeah. He's got some liberal and also anti-intersectional and transphobic takes. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of these people, when you read stuff, it's not like you're in a cult. You don't have to. When you read a text, the good thing about reading a text, as opposed to seeing someone on YouTube or watching them speak, you know, in their very sort of personalized capacity, is that you can take what you want from the text and interrogate it and you know, get some value out of what they say. Now, if there are some feminists, I'm not very familiar with feminist writers, but I know Germaine Greer is a complete transphobe, but I still read her stuff. I still found value in some of what she's written. I just have to. I just disregard the anti-trans stuff, which wouldn't actually wouldn't pass muster, and this definitely not in this decade. But yeah, yeah, Zizek's just he's also, you know, Zizek's a bit of a contrarian kind of, he's a boomer, you know. That's just who he is, and you know, and he's got a funny way of talking, and he likes to eat hot dogs, and that's what we love about him. If you know, and also he Zizek was at my university, and I attended some lectures that he taught.
Female. Early 30s.
And
Excellent.
I see them.
and I've actually met the man.
Bastards. Looks like Reynard's grisly handiwork, all right. She was never shy about collateral damage.
I remember there was
Don't
this.
think so. The house is registered to a non-existent.
Yeah, he's quite charming, very sweaty. But that's what I guess that's very appealing. You know, some sort of sweaty dude. I'm just carrying around a car battery. I don't know
Nothing
why.
we can do for these people.
I know there's poison here. When I watched this happen, I watched someone else play it on YouTube, and there was poison. So I press F for the poison. Yeah, Zizek is like sort of a guy who he seems to have, he has that kind of persona where you just feel that he doesn't have any time for other people, for people in general, and that actually actually helps. I think it helps him, because when you have like sort of people like me, when I was like a student, coming up to him saying, "Oh, Zizek," you know, I came up. I mean, he's all right, but I'm not like a fan or anything now. But he was a big deal when I was at university, and you know, you just know he's a crank, so you're not gonna like you're not gonna. I think someone like Morrissey was another example, where okay, yeah, you like his music and stuff, but fuck, you wouldn't want to meet him. Do you know? You'd be like, fuck meeting Morrissey, actually.
Rope. Chloroform.
Chloroform, that looks
Looks
cool.
like another kidnapping.
I wouldn't put it past them. The Shadow client is nothing if not industrious.
Why is he doing this?
Clearly, he has an axe to grind with Providence. Big enough to surround himself.
I listened to Zizek on a podcast
Big enough
once,
not to care who gets
and he was on it for like half an hour.
Believes he's doing the right
Before I
thing.
realised that it was him, I thought it was someone doing a Zizek impression. I thought it was like a skit where they had someone doing the, you know, that sniffly thing, and he was doing all these like very Zizek sort of takes where he was just talking about like just the way he was talking, and I was like, oh man, this is just so funny. They're doing like a really good caricature of this Zizek, like this cartoon character of Zizek, and it was actually Zizek. Like, he's probably someone who would, if you did like he'd come third in the Zizek impersonation contest.
47. That computer. See if you can't access
I
it.
don't know why. Oh, that's what I've got to do. I saw it on YouTube. It's got to be right. It's got to be right. So I've got to do is I've got to find the entrance to their bathroom. I put the battery down. If I'm still carrying the battery, I'm probably not, am I? I'm not carrying the battery. Okay. Well, I can't do that then, can I? I've just got to. Net 7 doesn't understand or get transgenderism. I don't think there's an ism involved at all. That's the problem, dude. Yeah, I think the issue is that you've
Encrypted.
put an ism on the end of it
Assuming there's
and ascribed a kind of
just leave it lying around.
some ideology to what is basically
Wait. According to
a
the
human
theory,
condition.
the room you're
So
in
it
should be a
doesn't-
lot bigger.
that's why it doesn't make sense to
There
you.
might be a concealed space behind the wall. Check for hidden panels, 47.
You should stop trying to make it make sense to you and just sort of, I don't know, let people live their lives. Morphine faces alien grey moth whistles. I'm not going to take my hands off the keyboard, but I acknowledge your message, and it's been moderated, but I see you, yeah. So yeah. I don't know what I'm doing here. It's a pretty cool piece of art, huh? Not really, it's gross. I got this because it's got like the scenery. This is supposed to be New Zealand, where this assassin is. So there's the. I could overflow this sink. That's what I could do. I think that well, yeah, like no one. I think the thing about the left, as I am to understand the left, is that the left is an inclusionary Net7 wants to know what a TERF is. Are you for real? I'm sure you know what a TERF is. Everyone knows what a TERF is. It's 2020. Come on, dude. Catch up. Play catch up. So I've got an ore, and they've called it like a Maori. They've given it a funny word. Morph. Do you know what's interesting? Morphing faces, alien grey moth whistles, is that it's held your comment for review, and your comment just says trans exclusionary radical feminist. For some reason, YouTube has decided that your message is something which needs to be held for review. That's interesting, eh? Must be like you're swearing when you say TERF. Someone who pretends to be feminist to hold down trans people. That's an interesting definition. I'm going to have to just get off this game for a second just so I can moderate these comments, eh? There you go. All your comments are now visible. Yeah, so if you're someone who is exclusionary of a particular person, then you probably have to maybe think about your politics, because we especially on my stream, by the way, on my stream, everyone's welcome except someone who unironically reads those texts that I brought up. everyone's welcome on the stream. So I'm what you would call an inclusionary person. But if you were exclusionary, then you would probably be one of these people. And now you know. You have my definition. This game sucks balls though. I might try this Dishonored one again. Just because. I think I lost some viewers after people started talking about after this person brought up transgenderism, quote unquote transgenderism. So I'm sorry. I apologise on behalf of. Well, I don't apologise on behalf of anyone, but let's not talk about these things. I find it a real downer. I think. I actually got past. I actually stabbed some people, and I just loaded it up earlier. I managed to stab some people, so I feel like I'm actually mastering this game. Do you know what? I always hate it.
Gotta get out of Dunlop.
And then I get used to it, and eventually I start enjoying it. I guess this might be what six was like. Sort of like. Okay, so. A bit of an audio delay, yeah. Do you know why it is? It's because I'm using this fancy pants voice recorder, and it's like I'm not using a proper microphone, and so what's happening is it's making its way around through the video processor and all this technical bollocks. So hopefully I should get this get a proper microphone up. There are far too few sheep for this to be New Zealand. Yeah, true that. Oh yeah, that was it was a the beach though. It did look quite New Zealandy, the beach. So this is interesting. They have air conditioning. I think all video games have to have air conditioners, like just because that's like a prop they have or something. Ah, there is a fix. In OBS I can create an audio delay. So let's do that, shall we? Just to. Now this is my mic. I presume I go into advanced audio properties. No. Yeah, sync offset, that's what it would be. And then if I go to, if I try like a few milliseconds, maybe that helps. Maybe I'm talking a bit better now. Does that look good? Who knows? Who knows? I'll try 5 milliseconds. Whoa. OBS is I'm just starting to like rediscover OBS. It's actually a really powerful piece of software for what it is. So actually, like, you know, you can do some really interesting broadcastable type things with it.
Somehow Delilah turned my father to stone. I will find a way to undo it.
I don't know how else to use the gun. There must be a button for it, eh? Like I must, like, oh, okay, that's it. And now I've lost the bullet. Okay. So it takes 2 shots to.
You're not fit for the watch uniform.
I can loot him. So I got I don't know if I got anything. I can carry him. Why would I carry him anyway? Is this just to dump his body so then no one can? Yeah, something like that. I've run out of bullets already. Maybe I should have saved them for more of a special occasion.
Listen up, I have bad news. Ramsey's dead. Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily Coldwin has apparently fled the scene. We've got to find her. That's it. We've got your orders. Spread out and find the fugitive. We're in this with the Duke of Circano, sink or swim. There's no way to turn back now.
All right. Okay, Barton. I'm going to do this. I'm going to just make this audio comes first. Right, I see. So if I go into advanced audio properties, and how does that look better for you? Do an exclamation mark if it if it looks any better. I don't know. Resume. So they're breaking off. So I guess I've got to get this dude, and he's facing me. So I've got to find a way to sort of stealth my way around. Maybe I could just shoot him twice. Guess I'll do that. Shall I? But then they will come running. Okay. Oh, there's a hatch here. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
What's going on here? I'll help you look around. That's Emily Coldwin.
Oh. Hey, that's cool. Oh, then I die. Okay.
What the?
So is this? I think I need a full second. No, please do. This is good. It's good actually to have people tell me that I'm that my shit looks ugly, eh? Because I don't want to look like I'm, sitting on my, like maybe I need to wear a suit. I should wear a suit. Okay, if I go into a full second, you say. Okay, let's give it a go. What is 10 milliseconds a full second? Or is that like if I go like one, like I wonder how that looks, my lord. Do I even, I'm probably so out of whack now. Okay. I guess I'll have to go back to where I was. I guess that will be my goal for the next time, will be to have my sound in order. I have noticed it. Like I do look really fucking really. There's no lip sync happening, so it's just been me being lazy. I guess I just didn't think it was anything that was possible because I have this really dumb recording device attached. When I should have a microphone.
I need to find a ship.
Like all the fancy,
The city's crawling with the Duke's men.
So I should be stealthing this dude, I reckon, because I don't want to attract those guys.
Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily Coldwin.
So I'll go into this
fled the scene. We've got to find her. That's it. You've got your orders. Spread out and find the fugitive. We're in this with the Duke of Serkino, sink or swim. There's no way to turn back now.
I can. Do you think if I just? Hey, that's pretty gnarly. That's gnarly, man. Oh. Man, this is actually pretty fucking cool. The way I'm losing health here.
Search me. That's Emily Coldwin.
No shit.
Let's see what you've got.
I'm gonna die, aren't I? I've got to be stealthing the whole lot, don't I? So that guy who came, he saw me the first time, and I successfully killed him. But then I shouldn't have done it. That I should have just evaded them straight up. Do you think Net7 has left the chat?
I need to find a ship.
Wherever you are.
The city's crawling with the Duke's men.
Listen up. I have bad news. Ramsey's dead. Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily Coldwin is apparently fled.
Maybe I can find a way to walk along there, drop down, and
find the fugitive.
Something
We're
like
in
that.
this with the Duke of Serkino, sink or swim. There's no way to turn back now.
Man, I'm gonna die again. Oh no.
I don't like that. Better have a look. You ready?
It's because I didn't crouch
The
down.
former Empress Emily Caldwell has been accused of high crimes against the state. Anyone caught harboring her is equally guilty of treason. Wait! There's nothing to do. Huh?
I know you're here
So let's
somewhere.
see. What was it? Let's have a look around. What? You're so dead. You are doing it.
Nah. Hey, there's a head. That's funny. Oh dear. I'm not doing anything on this game, you guys. I'm sorry. I'm not like giving you Oh no, no, no! Don't look. I'd rather like no. I don't. I prefer not to have people do like talk that kind of nonsense. If they don't know what a turf is and they're like saying they're confused by transgenderism, this isn't the right place for them to be at all. Like I'm not going to be the one to explain trans rights to people. It's not. It's not. You know. It's not. I'm not that person.
Wherever you are.
The city's crawling with the Duke's men.
Everyone's welcome
Listen
here.
up. I have bad news. Ramsey's dead. Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily Coldwin has apparently fled the scene. We've got to find her. That's it. You've got your orders. Spread out and find the.
So this guy's like.
We're in this with the Duke of Circano, sink or swim. There's no way to turn back now.
I've just got to wait for this guy.
I can wait.
Maybe there's a way, like, you know, in Wolfenstein, how you can shoot a shot and it gets their attention, and then you wait for them to move there, and then you just pounce them from behind. I think that's what the strategy might be here.
I'm hungry. The former Empress, Emily Caldwin, has been accused of high crimes against the state. Anyone caught harboring her is equally guilty of treason.
Request for new boots. What I get? A sock. One useless sock.
Someone there?
Well, I feel I'm getting. I don't know if I'm making progress. I don't feel like I am. So it's not really. Maybe I should go to bed and read this book about the Muslim invasion. Oh my lord. Oh. And then I wake up and I have this knock on my door. I mean, I said this last night on the stream last night, that my worst fear is like so. I mentioned it last time if anyone was here that I made this video a few years ago, and for YouTube when I was really paying attention to my YouTube channel, and it had I downloaded like hundreds of videos of just like far right neo-Nazi, racist, anti-Semitic, race war kind of stuff back when that stuff was just freely running on YouTube, and I downloaded it all to make videos with. And it was on, but it wasn't on my computer. It was on the MacBook Pro that the organisation I worked for had given me. And when I returned it to them, I realised that I hadn't deleted all of these videos.
There's no way to turn back.
And so there was this really, really awkward conversation that happened when I was called into my boss's office and they asked me, why do you have this material on your computer, on our computer, and I was like, I just want to know what the Nazis thinking. I want to, and I could just see that happening again now. Like I could see someone in my house looking at my bookshelf and seeing one of these books and being like,
Emily Caldwin has been accused of high crimes against the
why
state.
do you have
Anyone caught harboring
the
her is
ethnic
equally guilty
race
of
war
treason.
book on your shelf? Why do you, why are you, like if I get a partner, and at the first, obviously when you bring a date home, the first thing they're going to do is look at your bookshelf. It's like looking in someone's medicine cabinet when you look at their bookshelf, and if they can see, if they like looking through and they see like half like a big little cluster of books which are obviously like literature which is probably banned in several countries, they might rethink their future with you.
Crawling with the Duke's men.
I'll just blow him and blow his head off.
This wool, it itches like mad. Why can't I wear my...
There's got to be a way around this. There's got to be a way to stealth my way through these. Yeah, it was fun. It wasn't funny at the time actually, because I was actually really I was shitting my pants because I thought that it was because it wasn't appropriate. It's not. It's very not appropriate. No matter what your intention is, it's actually. I personally, I would take a dim view on that if any of my employees were had that stuff on company resources. There's no context in which that's acceptable. So I was actually, you know, I consider myself a good worker, and just the thought that just
Better have a look.
just thinking that they saw me like that was just making me a bit ill. Like, they're probably thinking that Nick guy's a bit strange. He's got all this Nazi shit on the computer.
I thought I saw someone right here.
And I showed them the video I made, and it became clear to them that I wasn't. I was, while I was,
Nothing here?
everything that I do was in alignment with myself. I live myself authentically. Like, I'm not trying to hide anything about my personality to anyone. But it's still like, it's unnerving to think that people might think you're a Nazi, and having to explain that stuff is actually really quite.
I'll search with you.
Yeah. Having to go to your boss's office and having to that they're asking, do I need to see a fucking diversity coordinator? Do you know? Do they need to send me on a course? Jesus, man, that would just be the worst. I was actually, funnily enough, I was actually in when I was working in London, I was working for an organisation, and I did have to go. They did actually take me. I was sent on a diversity workshop. There wasn't.
That's him.
Okay. There was a. So what happened was that we had a.
Damn it! Hey! You hear that? It's the Empress! Former Empress, I mean!
So I worked for this organisation, and it was we were a publisher. I did publishing for the British government. We did contractor publishing, and I sort of project managed the publishing, and in the printing press, we had a big printing press, and there was a certain kind of I think there was an incident which had happened in the printing press, because I know that there were a lot of Polish people working there, and a lot of very English people working there. I don't want to say, how do I say this without? I don't want to say like it's a working class thing, because it wasn't working class. Everyone got along. Everyone got along fine for the most part, but there was a contingent of people who probably read the Daily Express and were hopped up on stupid ideas and said some stupid shit to the Polish workers. Because in Britain, if anyone's watching this and you have any experience in Britain, British people really, like, they can be racist to Polish people like the same way they are to like people of colour. Like it's a real discriminatory environment. It can become a really discriminatory environment. And I think something might have happened, because everyone in this organisation had to go on this diversity workshop, which they probably paid the person thousands to take this workshop, and it was just the cringiest shit. Like, because I was working. I couldn't make it during the day, so they had this like special night session, and there were two other guys. So it was just me and two others, and the other guys said something really homophobic. It was really, I think it was directed at me too, and it was like, oh man, you don't say homophobic shit at a diversity workshop. Are you fucking kidding me? This is this guy. and the person taking it, the coordinator, we had to do these exercises. They did this real like it was, I guess, if you're a racist or something, maybe you need to have it spelled out to you in stupid terms, but it was real shit-eating, like, pretend you're an X and everyone else is an O. How does it feel to be an X when everyone else is an O? And you're like, come on. I'm not like a child. What are you talking about? And someone got paid thousands. And then at the end of it, I don't actually think it was. I personally think that it wasn't really to make necessarily. I mean, obviously, if they made people get along and feel more comfortable with other people in their workplace, and build a better corporate culture, that's wonderful. But I personally think they hired this person just to check off their legal compliancy, to show that they had done what they needed to do if someone had decided to take a case, raise a grievance to an employment tribunal. That's what I personally think. I think a lot of when you get these sorts of if you're working in a company and you get these sorts of things happening, that's normally the case. It's not in the it's HR trying to steal a march on the trade unions or something like that. Because if we had stronger trade unions, they would handle that. They would handle a lot of the corporate culture. So yeah, that's my take on diversity in the workplace. Because I guess in this country that I live in, cultural competency I think we're a bit further ahead in certain ways than other countries when it comes to cultural competencies. I think that's the word for it, cultural fluency. Because what the rest of the world calls politically correct is what New Zealand's kind of been doing for decades. And I think that's so that's partly why people in Australia, they look at New Zealand as being, this social justice warrior islands. We have that reputation about us.
Listen up, I have bad news.
I think we're about a decade, a lot of these sorts of political correctness war, this cultural war on political correctness, which refers to a lot of the stuff which was happening, I think, in the 1990s in university campuses in America, in the United States. That sort of stuff was happening. Well, I mean, the stuff that they refer to was already been happening in New Zealand for years. Well, yeah, Barton, ridiculously nice, but it's just like, if you think about how people can be fucked up and genteel while they do it, and I think that's the Anglo side of New Zealand culture, that if you one thing I disliked about living in the UK was people in Britain will treat you the same whether they like you or dislike you. Compared to America, if you live in America or the United States, or you meet an American, if they like or dislike you, you'll find out soon enough. I think New Zealand's we're much more New World in those values. We're going to be, but at the same time, we're much more Anglo at the same time. So we've got to be nice to everyone, and then fuck them over in other ways. Ridiculously nice, but. There's an oppression with that. I think the oppression comes from there's such a low tolerance for being an asshole that if you it's like Pleasantville, like that movie Pleasantville, where you just do something a little bit wrong, a little bit non-conformist, a little bit not what everyone else is doing, you instantly become a target. It's not because you're not with the program, and that program is being quote unquote nice. There's a certain I won't say oppression's too hard a word. We know what oppression is, but there's a certain being nice isn't. There's an underbelly of niceness, is what I'm saying. And it's like the 1950s as well. You think about how all these people were like, everything was all upright and genteel, but at the same time everyone was getting backstreet abortions and drinking poison and all that kind of stuff. It's the same thing here. We've got a ridiculously high suicide rate. We've got a ridiculously high family violence, domestic violence rate. And what it is it's because you have this big public persona, and everything's your kept up appearances, everything's wonderful, and then all that hit up aggression and stuff. Or I don't know what the reason for. I think hit up aggression's not even correct, because I'm not a sociologist. I don't know the reason exactly behind enthusiastic artists, but behind closed doors. And that's something I return to often, is that New Zealand has a sort of New Zealand Gothic, that there is this dark underbelly in this country where you go into the bush, you go into the forest, and then find yourself buried there because you come across someone's cannabis crop, and they kill you and bury you in the that kind of thing. I don't know if that's happened recently, but these things have been known to happen. Like something from, even though it's Nick Cave's Australian, but I just think about murder ballads.
Need to find a ship.
And how there is this sort of like some of the songs and that sort of remind me of like New Zealand, sort of like some of the crimes we've had here, like this couple who they're on New Year's Eve and they go on some guy's yacht, and then they
City's crawling
get murdered by him, and they fight, and the guy, they can't find the bodies anywhere, but all they see, the forensic people just find all the scratching inside the yacht, and it's like, fuck, that's a fucked up crime, man. And these are the sorts of crimes which sort of define us as they're not just like run of the mill murders, they're like real fucked up ones. So yeah, that's my rant when you say New Zealanders are nice. Yeah, we're nice, but murderers, cold-blooded murderers. And also, settler colonists. And sheep.
The former Empress, Emily Caldwin, has been accused of high crimes against the state. Anyone caught harboring her is equally guilty of treason.
Yeah, man, some of the cases you hear about are just dire. Like, there are some like serious. I've worked in the realm of I've done some advocacy, some sex worker rights stuff, and yeah, there's some stories, and even when you decriminalise the sex industry like New Zealand did, that doesn't stop. It's not that doesn't stop bad things from happening,
Should listen to Mom and become a hairdresser.
Hey, that's cool. I actually managed to get past that guy, so maybe if I go through this edge. Yeah, morphine faces, alien grey mouth whistles. This guy, it was really funny. This guy was like, he was like, oh, I wouldn't get in a lift with a homo, or something like. He said something really just like so old school, old school homophobic. Like, I was quite taken aback, and the.
Attention Dunwall citizen. As of today, Delilah Caldwin is our new empress.
And I don't think the coordinator was, I think, quite horrified too. It didn't really say anything. It was like,
is now wanted for treason. Any of you found harboring Emily Caldwin will be fined and arrested. People of Dunwall, stay in your homes.
I'm dead. Oh, that's a shame. The game is called Dishonored 2, and I'm making a real pants effort, so I apologise. I'll probably give it like maybe a couple of couple of dozen minutes, and then go to bed and read my far-right, my neo-Nazi texts, become radicalized on that, and then maybe reconvene. Well, this is
to find a ship.
An enthusiastic nihilist. Like, there's a real sort of like it's a real narcissism that goes with that statement. It's like, why would I want to fuck you? Like, man, just because, like, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're into boning dudes, you probably like. I mean, if you're a man who has sex with men, as one might do on occasion.
The city's crawling with the Duke's
sort
men.
of like
Listen up. I have bad news. Ramsey's dead.
Us men can be indiscriminate. I'm not gonna like beat around the bush here, but
We've got to find her.
not you. Why the fuck do you think I'll fuck you? Shut up, dude.
Spread out and find the fugitive. We're in this with the Duke.
Not you.
Gonna sink or swim.
You look like
There's
you
no
stink.
way to turn back now.
Yeah. Oh, this is where I was before.
Getting so one can't even breathe no more.
I like that. That's quite cool.
The former Empress, Emily Caldwin, has been accused of high crimes against the state. Anyone caught harboring her is equally guilty. That's Emily Caldwin!
Not going anywhere!
Into the road!
Oh shit. I should upload a catch-up or review video. Yeah, I'll give you the full rundown on my new life as a connoisseur of race war theory. Should be fun. I have this kind of idea that I'll probably. Do you know what? I could write about the stuff. I could even probably write my own race war theory book, and I would probably, like someone said, I probably know more about race war theory than probably like. I just called it race war theory. I don't know if that's what it's called. It's probably. I've just called it that. I've just coined a new
The
term.
city's crawling with the Duke's men.
And I could probably become the next Jared Taylor. I've just got to have a. I've got to have a new.
Ramsey's dead.
A
Corporal
new
Moore checked the royal
sort of
quarters. Emily Caldwin has apparently fled the
you know, like how he goes white and he sort of has this kind of really old school, like he's like some sort of plantation owner or something. I need one of these. I need one of these. I mean, apart from my silly accent, that is. That's probably it. That's probably my quirk. I can be the reactionary YouTuber with a funny accent. Yeah, man, white. I do.
Former Empress Emily Caldwin.
I do actually
Accused
think.
of high crimes against the state.
Oh wow, he looks you in the eye when he kills you. That's nuts. I actually do think that guy plays it up. He actually does do that white shit on purpose because he knows that people like it. Because like it's just it makes him sound like he's a fucking. Oh, smooth as hell. Stop flattering me. Gets you everywhere. Jesus. Smooth as hell, or camp as fuck, as they say. But yeah. So I'll get my verbal affectation. And then I'll get like some kind
To
of
find a ship.
gimmick. Like maybe I'll just do it in a. Like, I'm doing it in a dingy room. This is kind of millennial wozy kind of how I am right now. Maybe it needs to be darker still.
Emily Caldwin is apparently.
And then I can
With the Duke's men.
talk about the.
Got your orders. Spread out and find the fugitive.
I think I'm playing on the. I think you underestimate just how bad I am, or you know, like I'm actually. I can't play games for shit, and I'm sorry, but that's just how it goes.
So let's see. What was it?
Okay, that's cool.
The former Empress, Emily Caldwin, has been accused of high crimes against the state. Anyone caught harboring her is equally guilty of treason. That's Emily Caldwin!
Oh, it's just always this guy. Maybe he's the hard one. He's the... I'm spending so long getting murdered on this game. Yeah. But I can't just when you're a reactionary. Yeah, it is pretty tough. It is pretty tough. But I like your company. You really made me feel much less lonely tonight. I tell you what. I tell you what. I mean, I tell you what. And I do wonder how how these people who become reactionary for the pay, right? Like these sorts of like people who start. I guess that era is probably over now that Trump's no longer president. Or maybe it'll last linger. I don't know. But these people really melt their brains because you can't just you can't just say reactionary shit. You've got to internalize it somehow. So when you come stuff, when you come out with stuff, do you know? You've got to be able to come out with original stuff. So you have to be able to get in that mindset where you become reactionary. So even when you're doing it even when you're like sort of a right winger for money, like your Tim Pool or whatever, you have to melt your brain getting into that mode. And that's why they and I have this theory about Tim Pool, is that the reason why he looks so angry all the time is because he hasn't internalized it as well as like someone like Dave Rubin or those others.
That's Emily! Not going anywhere! You little shit! No!
Wow, I'm doing well. I did that. Oh, he does that! It's this guy! Steven Crowder. Yeah, he's a weird one, isn't he? Because what do you think that thing is where he wears a dress all the time? What do you think that's all about? Do you think it's some kind of he's acting something out, or do you think that's just it's just Dave Rubin? Yeah, well, I mean that's everyone speculates that he's going to if push comes to shove and he starts losing money, he'll do conversion therapy for the pay. He I mean, I don't think it's so much like I don't know if it's true if he's just bought a $4 million house or something. He's incredibly rich. He's getting that oil money. He's getting his payday, that Rubin guy. And when you get that kind of money, you rise above. You're no longer the issues no longer matter to you. For rich people, all they give a fuck about is no. I'm getting into the class war shit. I'll pull back from that. But you know what I'm saying, right? Like if you like, for a lot of people, it doesn't matter what the social beliefs are as long as they don't pay tax. That's the only thing they give a fuck about. That they can make as much money as they like. As they can, and I think that's Dave Rubin's deal. He just makes the money, and Tim Pool, he owns a mansion and has an underground skate park. I mean, part of YouTube's terms of service is that you're not allowed to show people. You're not allowed to make public how much you're earning from their AdSense, and. For Tim Pool to have a mansion now, I mean, he must be making fucking coin. He's not even a political YouTuber. He's actually big for a YouTube. Like, how there's political YouTube, which is probably most political YouTubers have the biggest ones are still not really that big compared to the mainstream YouTubers who do like cosmetics and like reaction videos and stuff like that. I don't know, but but Tim Pool's is big on any sense of a YouTuber, and he must be just printing money. That dude, he must just like be shitting fucking banknotes. Just, and he's on the internet more hours than there are in the day. So it's like he's just, bleh, you know. He doesn't have to. I don't know where he gets his information from. Probably like Breitbart or something. I mean, that's what I'd do if I wanted to become a reactionary YouTuber. I would just go to Breitbart and find out what they're printing today, and then just regurgitate that. I'm sure that's what most of them do. Most of these people, they just have like a few key texts they read.
I need to find a ship.
It's not like they're prowling the web looking for new. You know, they're all taking their calling cards from, I don't know, Glenn Beck or something. Their cue cards rather. Well, centrism. Well, Tim Pool's interesting. I watched one of his podcasts, and he mentioned that he was in sales. He worked in sales, and
Listen up.
one of the lessons he learned. Oh shit!
Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily.
One of the lessons Tim Pool learned as a salesman was to become like the client, become like the customer, and then they're more inclined to buy from you because they're talking to someone they think is like them. And I was thinking that's actually why Tim Pool's successful. He sees that his job is a sales job, and when he's wearing his beanie, he's presenting himself as a kind of a normal skater dude, you know. So all those suburban, nice non-political kind of guys. I think that's who he's kind of aiming himself to, you know. And he's doing well because he comes across that way. He comes across as maybe a cool friend, you know, like he's or the smart friend that. Now this guy's easy. Oh, come on. Nothing more punk. They use repetition to convince you. What do you mean that they is it like they say the same things over again? Is that what you mean by repetition? Kaisirin. Like they kind of, is it like they repeat the same point over? It's almost like evangelism. How everything always returns back to accepting Jesus Christ and as your Lord and personal Saviour and repenting your sins. Like no matter if you're watching one of those televangelism shows, it all returns to that. You know, that one key message about, you know, accepting Jesus Christ. And I get that maybe with reactionaries it's the same thing. That their message is actually very, very simple. Yeah, right, they accept the same points. And there is a certain confirmation bias thing. I've noticed this with the... to be candid with you, so you know, you have to be really careful when you're reading some of these. If you get in the deep end with some of these texts, like I've done, and I'm about to do in a few minutes, is that you can be affected by them. You can become actually really, even when you think you're too smart and you can be critically reading it, these sorts of things, you can still be affected by them. And that's why we don't, you got to be very careful about these matters. When you start investigating what anti-Semites think about the world, about Jewish stuff, anti-Semitism, the reason it's so powerful and enduring is that once you understand this framework about how Jews control things, you start seeing Jewish influence everywhere, and it confirms everything that anti-Semites say, and it becomes the self-fulfilling. You just become this like a feedback loop, and you become you get into that headspace, and you have to sort of watch that you don't do that, and you can do that with so easily. Like I did that thing when I did this. I did a lot of Jared Taylor. I read Jared Taylor's book. I listened to all of his. Watched all of his videos, and and sometimes I'd be, and a lot of what and some of what they say isn't untrue. Like they aren't coming from, it's not that they aren't talking a different language, but they're kind of, you have to be careful. You miss, if you blink, you might miss the bit where because they start off and then all of a sudden they're suddenly there, and it's a crazy new direction, and you haven't even noticed because you've just been listening to them, you've been following them, and then you're like, you haven't caught onto them when they jumped into the crazy zone, into the far right, well, they have a low IQ audience. That too. I mean, that does help. If you're someone who just watches stuff like an automaton, I mean, and this is quite it's politically incorrect to say this, but some people really are just stupid. Like if you look at half of this QAnon stuff that's driving that's just sweeping the planet, all this kind of misinformation, you kind of think to yourself, what kind of level of where you believe just any old shit you've seen on Facebook, and people they just do. Yeah, it's depressing stuff, but yeah. I'll try one more time and then I'm going to go to bed. It is like 1:45. You can see I'm a bit more upbeat tonight because I finished this podcast. I do this. I produce this podcast for some business people.
I need to find a ship.
They're these lifestyle business. I did not know these people existed in my country. I thought that because I live in a very, let's say, Polynesian part of the island. We don't have high incomes in this part of the country. We don't, the people who might go to New York for a holiday, they don't live here, but they do live in parts of Auckland, and I'm doing a podcast for these people, and it's been I'm making sure I'm billing them. I'm definitely invoicing the fuck out of these people, but it's been quite stressful producing this podcast. Like their audio's been shit, and
The city's
and now it's finished. I get to stay up late playing this game and reading nasty shit.
Bad news. Ramsey's dead. Corporal Moore checked the royal quarters, and Emily Coldwin is apparently fled.
That's the thing, like about the sort of the lack of education.
That's it.
Is why if you read I can read these far right things. I don't have to be affected by it because I can see it for what it is and what they're trying to get at, because I've read enough of them to know what to expect and what to look out for and stuff. But I can see if you're someone who isn't well read and you're told this book, there's a book.
No,
You don't have to read. It's not a tweet. It's not a meme. It's a book, and it's called whatever it's called, the Ethnic Apocalypse, and the cover appeals to you. Maybe you'll find something in there that will you'll be led down.
Been accused of high crimes against the state.
And it's important to read. Like
equally guilty of treason.
part. Oh fuck! I'm dead already.
This won't take long.
Part of the reason I came off Twitter was because I wasn't reading. Like, I'd hardly read any books in the past year. And I think it's more important to read than it is to use social media or play video games. I'm a bit of an old fuddy-duddy that way. I really have. I think that reading books, actual text, not online, is very important. And I think that the better read you are, the easier it is for you to critically evaluate other texts. Compare, contrast, all that stuff. You don't get that you don't get that reading stuff online. You don't get the same experience. Lee. I'm just going to be streaming more and more, but I'm also going to make a proper YouTube video. I'm doing a video about AIDS denial, the history of the cultural, because it fits in with COVID denial. Like there are people who don't believe HIV is a problem, and it's fascinating just how much it fits in with a lot of COVID stuff. So you recommend Walter Scheidle's The Great Leveler. So maybe I'll add that to my list. Yeah, I think I really rate reading. I think that if you find that you're on Twitter too much and you haven't read anything, you need to get off Twitter. You just need to, because otherwise you're going to end up like one of these boomers who just download nonsense from Facebook. You will end up. I'm sorry, you will end up that way, and you'll think you're immune to it, but you're just gonna find yourself just everyone thinks they're smart, but yeah. Yeah, thanks, Lee. It's good to see. It's good to have you on board. So I think that's me for the night. You missed Lee. You missed out. I put on a book show because I've just asked. I've just picked up an array of neo-Nazi literature which I'm going to read, and we've all agreed that I'm going to be reading a book about race war. So later on, I will be reviewing the book on race war. So. Yeah, random film versus aging. Yeah, or this berry will reverse the, will stop cancer or whatever. Fucking boomers. But then there's something to look forward to for the next 10 years. Okay, so take care, everyone.